Hello everyone, this is Skylar Fox, and today I'm going to be sharing some of my thoughts around StoryFire, which some of you may or may not be aware of already. So StoryFire is a relatively new platform. It's only been around since 2017, and it was created by Jesse, who owns the YouTube channel McJuggernuggets. Now, I found out about this platform about 2 months ago, and the reason I found out about it was from people retweeting tweets from the StoryFire Twitter. A lot of these tweets were talking about the ad revenue that was possible through StoryFire, and really, Jesse seemed to have been really pitching this as a YouTube alternative or a YouTube competitor. And on October 18th, he released this huge 47-minute video saying, "I'm quitting YouTube on January 2020, in which he goes on this huge rant about YouTube, a lot of its problems, and why he thinks that StoryFire should be a good alternative. And I want to emphasize that I think a lot of people really started hearing about StoryFire from this video getting shared around because a lot of people have been sort of talking about, oh, have we finally found it? Have we finally found a good YouTube competitor? And after trying to figure out exactly what it's all about and creating an account there, honestly, no. At least not yet. Now, I want to give a bit of background on my own personal journey through YouTube and just to give a bit of context so that way you know that I fully empathize with this idea of wanting to seek something beyond YouTube. I created an account on YouTube in 2007 to upload videos there, and I kind of just uploaded whatever. A lot of it was animation, some of it was just parodies using video game footage, whatever have you. Then at about 2011, that account got deleted. It wasn't under YouTube's fault necessarily. There was someone that in real life that interfered, and I left my account logged in and they thought it'd be funny to delete the channel. Unfortunately, I was dumb enough to not back up most of those videos, so a lot of them are just permanently lost. So then in 2011, I created a new channel called C4D Nerd, and this time I wanted to kind of focus a little bit more on this channel with my animation specifically. Every now and again I would upload some non-animated videos, but for the most part my focus was animation. It was about 2012 when I signed up for the YouTube Partner Program, and I actually got approved for AdSense on my channel. However, I never received a single check from that AdSense revenue because about 29 days after getting AdSense, it was immediately terminated. The reasoning that YouTube gave me was that there was some invalid click activity that was going on in the channel. Something I was totally unaware of, something I couldn't really control. I mean, I had to look up what invalid activity even meant. I was only 18 years old, and so I didn't really know a whole lot about the specifics that went into ad revenue or what even could have potentially happened. My best guess right now is that maybe just some bots came and attacked it, but honestly, even to this day, I have no idea. Now, there is a way to try to reinstate this process through an appeal form that you have to sign in. You have to give them as much information as you can. And, you know, they end up denying me pretty darn quickly. I sent in a new one just about every other year, because I hear every now and again some people would just magically, like they would just have them suddenly reinstated after trying so many times. I've submitted, since 2012 up to the current year, I've probably submitted at least 13 appeal forms. You know, and there are times where I'll send an appeal form and then about 30 minutes later I'll get an automatic response saying, oh, it's been denied. So at this point, I'm pretty sure that YouTube just has a bunch of robots that are saying, no, don't reinstate that or whatever. I did create a Patreon account about a couple years ago, and it's been good. I mean, it hasn't been super huge or anything, but the fact that anyone would be willing to donate any money at all is really awesome. It's really appreciative, and to those of you who support my Patreon, I really, really appreciate you so very much. Now, that was just my own personal channel. I'd actually done a lot of more YouTube stuff with my friend Ryan. First of all, it was a YouTube channel called Nightmare Reviews, which, I'll be honest, it was more or less a Nostalgia Critic knockoff, which I think most movie review channels were. But we were making that for a while, and then we stopped at about 2013 because both me and Ryan eventually left to serve missions, and so we were gone for about 2 years. Then after coming back, Ryan approached me and said, hey, you know, we should really think about doing some YouTube again and hopefully start a new channel. And I thought, well, if I at least start a new channel, maybe that can be approved for AdSense. And now that I know a little bit more about potential threats to a channel, such as bot attacks or things like that, I could prevent some kind of termination, like what ended up happening with my channel. Being really optimistic here, I know. And so that leads to the channel Nerd Odyssey, which we started a couple years ago, and it only just recently hit 1,000 subscribers. And we still need about 4,000 hours of watch time before we can even submit an application over to YouTube for YouTube partnership before they say if they approve or not. And so, if you would like to help us grow, we would really appreciate it. Now, my point in explaining all this and summing up my background here is to give you the understanding that I empathize with everything that Jesse has said in his video, and I agree with a lot of it. I think there's a lot of things about YouTube's business model that feels very dishonest. They're terrible, terrible communicators, and there's a lot of problems with how their site is run, and it always feels like they almost never listen to actual feedback, and when they do, it feels very begrudgingly, and they always do the minimum amount possible. And so myself, like many others, have always wanted to look for some kind of competitor or alternative to YouTube that offers things that YouTube is not really doing. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what StoryFire is, and I think it is a big mistake for Jesse to be pitching it like it is. And I think one of the biggest problems with StoryFire is that it doesn't really do a good job at communicating what it is. Or at the very least, I should say, Jesse doesn't do a good job at explaining what it is. He's released so many different videos about StoryFire and about what it is, especially recently, both on Twitter and on YouTube, all social media, telling everyone to join StoryFire if you're sick of YouTube, if you're sick of the way they treat you. And he really delves deep into a lot of problems that YouTube has. And, you know, the video is very good at using your emotions to get you angry and fed up. And then he gives this call to action at the very end to join StoryFire. You know, it's marketing 101. But then the problem is he doesn't consider the fact that most users are going to be watching that video and they're going to be pumped up to say, oh my gosh, yes, let's join StoryFire. If it's this alternative to YouTube and they're going to be way more transparent about things, then awesome, yeah, we'll go over ahead and switch over. And so they go ahead and they download the app on their phone, or they go on their web browser, they go to storyfire.com, and they create an account. And let's say they try to upload a video, and then they're met with this message. Immediately, right after being hyped up about join StoryFire, this will support creators, you'll be able to make it, and you'll be able to get some good ad revenue. You'll make a lot more money on ad revenue there than you would on YouTube. Spends all this time hyping this up, only for you to get total whiplash by going into this website and saying, oh, sorry, you can't upload any videos right now. And so that's really the first impression you want to give people when you introduce them to this site. And you would think that one of the most obvious places to look for answers would be the FAQ section on the website, but a lot of them have to do with the feature of storytelling rather than anything about videos at all. So I had to be forced to try to find information elsewhere, which really isn't a good thing. Now, I ended up digging through a lot of McJuggernugget's prior videos talking about StoryFire, and then I had to go look up a bunch of other videos of other people, usually smaller YouTubers, actually clarifying what it's supposed to be. So let's talk about what StoryFire actually is. So StoryFire is a platform created by McJuggernuggets and a bunch of other people as a storytelling platform, hence the name StoryFire. Initially, when he first created this app, the pitch of the app was that you would be able to go on there and create your own stories and publish them to everyone. Then, somewhere down the line, he created the option for people to upload their own videos on there and to monetize them. However, unlike YouTube, which essentially would let you upload whatever you want, barring that it's not offensive, which, let's be real here, YouTube's always been pretty double standard about that. But with StoryFire, the idea was that you had to be uploading videos that were telling a story. They had to be like a series of stories. They weren't just, you couldn't just upload, like if you were a gamer and you were uploading playthroughs or stream videos or anything like that. Like, this would not be a platform for that. This wouldn't be a platform for makeup tutorials. This wouldn't be a platform for a lot of things, really. Unless you were specifically telling stories, then it wasn't the platform for you. And that's totally fine. I actually think that's a really smart move to make the app cater to a very specific niche. The problem is that Jesse doesn't pitch it that way. He pitches it as a YouTube competitor. And you have to understand, when you say YouTube competitor, you're involving a lot of things, a lot of really complicated aspects of YouTube. And you're oversimplifying things by saying this is an alternative to YouTube. It simply isn't. But then the other thing about StoryFire, again, is that it tells you, if you're a new user, that you can't upload videos there. Well, why is that? Well, you have to actually use the app itself. It won't tell you this on the desktop, which is a really, really dumb move, honestly. But only on the app will it tell you, hey, we're going to be hosting a video submission contest every 6 weeks or so. Come back next time to submit a project, to submit a video. Now, I know a lot of people would be really upset at the notion of, oh, you have to submit this application and then through voting, they'll decide whether or not you can upload videos. And I understand why people would be upset, but I also understand why StoryFire as a platform would need to do that, especially since it is very young. A lot of people really underestimate just how many resources are required to run a video uploading website. Unless you're the richest man alive, there's no way that you can just start up a website that's going to be anywhere near the level of what YouTube is capable of. And so, while StoryFire is still growing, they're going to include creators little by little, so that way they don't have to spend so many resources in order to flood the gates open to everyone. And maybe then later on, the opportunity to open the gates to everyone can occur once the platform gets really, really big. But that's simply not feasible now. And I understand that. That's something that makes perfect sense to me. The problem is, none of this is communicated whatsoever. I've scoured through Jesse's YouTube channel and I haven't seen a single video that has actually covered any of these concerns. And I think it's incredibly ironic, given that the majority of Jesse's video here about why he's quitting YouTube consists of ranting and complaining about YouTube's lack of transparency and their terrible communication. And you're not wrong, YouTube is bad at communicating, but so are you. And another thing it adds to it is that your videos have to be exclusive to StoryFire. So that means if you were to create and produce this video, you weren't to upload it to YouTube or anywhere else. It had to be a StoryFire exclusive. Now, I can understand this rule because it makes sense. As a way of promoting the platform, you're going to want to have people make stuff exclusively for that platform, so that way they can tell their friends saying, hey, I made this video on this website, you need to go download it, and then hopefully they'll go watch other videos and then they'll be able to grow StoryFire. So I totally understand that. But then the problem with that is that you go to StoryFire's website and you see channels like Justin Wang who are just uploading the same content that they make on YouTube onto StoryFire. And so they're very clearly breaking the rules that StoryFire has written out. And that's another point that Jesse brings up in his argument against YouTube, is that YouTube does that. That YouTube will only bend the rules for certain creators, and then some creators do have to follow the rules. But then here they seem to be falling into the exact same trap. And there were some people even commenting on Justin Wang's video saying, hey, isn't that against the rules of StoryFire? Why is this up here? And so the more that I've tried to learn about StoryFire, the more that it feels like they're just making all of the same mistakes that YouTube makes, except it's way worse, because at least with YouTube, anyone can upload anything at any time. Granted, you do have risks of random, unjust copyright strikes coming in your way, but at least you can upload. With StoryFire, they put up this massive block, and 6 weeks is not a short time. That's a long time to wait between submitting videos and submitting story ideas. And by the time that the next 6 weeks have come by, they might have already lost interest and tried to pursue other things. As I scoured through the video description, you even see the section where he says, if you would like to make content for StoryFire or you want to help join the cause in any way, contact me via Twitter, Instagram, or email me. And I tried contacting Jesse through this email a few weeks ago. I haven't heard a single response. I told him what it is that I do. I showed him examples of the videos that I make, tell him that I'm a 3D animator, which, as far as I could tell on StoryFire, it's not a niche that is filled at all. And like, look, I get it. Ever since that video came out, he's probably gotten a dozen emails that he would need to get through. But it just feels really frustrating that after all this time of trying to figure out what the heck this website even is, the only conclusion I seem to have come up with is that it's very, very similar to YouTube in a lot of its problems, but its niche and its purpose is not at all the same as YouTube's, nor could it really be. And look, I don't want to seem too negative. If StoryFire succeeds, I would absolutely love it. I think it would be really great if it does become a decent competitor to YouTube, at least in the sense that people that want to make stories can make a living off of telling stories. I think that actually fits the kind of niche that I'm the target for, really. Because that's the kind of thing that I've always been doing ever since I was a little kid. Ever since I was like 5 years old, I was always doodling and drawing little storyboards and comics of just random stories. And I've been making videos and experimenting with making games. And I've been doing all these things because I do love storytelling. This should be an app that I should really love and be on board with. But the lack of communication really turns me off from it. Like, look, I would love it if another video platform came up to compete against YouTube. I have always wanted to tell stories and be able to receive income in making my own videos. That's something that I've been striving for a long time. And you know what? If StoryFire becomes that platform, then that would be really exciting. You know, I hope that it can succeed. I hope that it can be a better platform. But communication is key. And Jesse, if you happen to be watching this, I really want to support this. I want to support this in any way I can. I just honestly feel that there isn't enough said about what StoryFire is to really get people invested. And I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. There are a lot of people that would love to jump on Storyboard if you were maybe a little more specific and a little bit more honest about what this really is. I get that your goal is that this is going to become a YouTube competitor someday, but as it is now, it's not. And I think it's really poor marketing to be establishing it as such. There's so many other video platforms out there that have tried to market themselves as a YouTube competitor, and all of them have just kind of fallen by the wayside. I agree with you. YouTube is problematic. There's a lot of issues with YouTube and how it's set up. But if you're going to push yourself and market yourself as a place where content creators can go to besides YouTube, you need to make sure that you're doing better than YouTube. That's the harsh truth. If you're not better than YouTube, why would people come to you? And really, the best way you could be better than YouTube is communicate better than YouTube. So, Jesse, if you're watching this, I wish you luck. If you need a content creator, contact me. I would still love to make videos despite my personal criticisms against StoryFire. And yeah, just sorry for the kind of, I don't know if I want to say rant necessarily, because I feel like I was being pretty constructive in what I was saying, but thanks for watching just a lot of my thoughts on this platform. I know it's kind of random to post a video like this. It's just been really on my mind a lot lately. So thanks a bunch, guys, for watching, and hope y'all have a wonderful day, and take care.